Welcome back to my channel. This is Enrique. My channel is called Enrique Reacts. Thank you for being a subscriber. I really appreciate it. Today's story, I want to discuss a little bit about my own personal experience dealing with clients that I've had over the years. I have a lot of clients that are elderly who come here to my office, and while I'm preparing their tax returns, by the way, I've been preparing tax returns for the last 20 years or so. I am an IRS enrolled agent here in California, and most of my clientele, especially the last 10 years or so, are over the age of 55 to 80, 90, 100 years old. So I do have a variety of clientele that come to my office, and I hear a lot of different stories. I get people telling me stories about them getting scammed. Some of them are local scams, some of them are online. So you do get a lot of people online that get scammed, especially if you're over the age of 65 and 70. A lot of these individuals, they don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to computers or to be able to detect these types of situations online. You get a lot of romance scams as well. I've had elderly clients of mine, and a lot of them, unfortunately, their children, some of them, a lot of them, they're baby boomers. You got the great generation. I deal with a lot of that clientele. But you got the baby boomer generation that's up and coming, that's starting to retire as well. They tend to be a little bit more savvy with the computers, but you do have their parents. They have a lot of issues when it comes to determining or discerning whether or not someone's trying to take advantage of them online. So I do think it's very important. If you are a baby boomer out there and you have parents that are in a retirement community away from where you're at, that you always try to follow up with them, that you keep track of their finances. Especially a lot of them, they do tend to have quite a bit of money. Most of them have over $1 million net worth, or they have a lot of money in brokerage accounts or checking accounts. So around those elderly people, there's a lot of people trying to take advantage of them as well. Sometimes I've seen situations where you have caregivers that try to take advantage of them, or you have people around them, such as people that come in to clean the house. Sometimes they also try to take advantage of these people. Some of them, they're partially disabled, and so they can't walk around their house that fast. So I've known of situations from clientele telling me that some caregivers or even people that come and clean their houses, like maids, they gain access to their safe. They have access to all their paperwork, their sensitive paperwork, their social security number, and even bank account information. So there's a lot of information out there that they can actually cause damage, financial ruin to a lot of these people. So like I said again, if you are a child of one of these elderly people that live in a country club community or in some sort of retirement community around the US, I strongly suggest that you always keep tabs, because you just never know. I've heard of situations where people get calls from quote unquote Amazon support tech, and if they have their Windows computer, they try to get access to it. They have money wired outside of the country to be able to fund criminal activities overseas. I had a lady, one of my clients recently that I won't name, but she did have about $250,000 that was wired outside from her Chase accounts. The scammers were able to gain access to her computer, and they did wire over $250,000 outside of the country. They left her with only $30,000 in the bank, and the bank would not do anything about it. They pretty much gave her the runaround. She lost all that money. That was the majority of her savings. So she ended up having to sell her house, which was free and clear. She had to fire sell the property. This was over a year ago. She had to move into her daughter's home. She had to live in one of the unused bedrooms. I felt bad for her, and she moved, like I said, she moved out of the area. That was a client that I lost. I didn't hear much from her, and since she was basically in a different area, she decided to seek an accountant in that area, which I was totally fine with. I just felt bad for what happened there. Also, I've had elderly men that come to my office. It's usually the male who passes away first. Men tend to fall into romance scams online where you have pictures, they get catfished, and they think that these supermodels online really want to go and marry them, or that they want to go ahead and come from a different country to be with them, and they get suckered into sending a lot of money overseas. I did have an instance not too long ago where I had a gentleman, brand new client of mine. He brought me his bank statements real confused, and I saw a lot of money leaving his bank account. He had a lot of cash sitting in a checking account with Chase, case, all of that money was being siphoned out of the country. And when I asked him, what are these transactions? He said that he's going to get married soon and that all of this was for his future wife. And the guy was in his 80s. I didn't know what to say. I told him, just be real careful. I think this is a scam. He rest assured me, says, no, this is not a scam. Several months later, he came in with his daughter, which was kind of surprising. His daughter just called me out of the blue, said, I want to schedule an appointment with you with my father. Is that fine? I said, yes, come on in. So both of them were here in my office. And when he went to the restroom, she started explaining to me exactly what was been going on. All the money that was siphoned, luckily, she did catch it. So even though she lived out of state, she was able to somehow keep tabs in his bank accounts, and she was able to freeze his funds, even though he was rebellious as to having her have access to his money and to be able to freeze his assets so that these people from foreign countries stop siphoning all his money. I'm glad that that happened when it did, because if not, they could have ran him into the poorhouse. Also, I did have another client. This guy was a multi-millionaire. He ended up in a coma, and it just so happened that his son, can you imagine, this is just family, his son had the same name as him, which is very common. You get the children that have a very similar name as the father. While he was in the coma for several months, his son was able to, with all his information, his identity, and his social security, and all his bank info, he was able to run him into the poorhouse. He was able to actually even offload properties. Somehow he was able to sell properties that were under his name, and his son was a drug addict, so he ended up running him into the poorhouse. He did have one property left. He was able to move into that property with him and his girlfriend. He was bamboozled after all of this happened. He ended up falling victim to a pig butchering scam. If you're not familiar with what that is, I strongly recommend that you go online, either go on YouTube or Google, and do your research as to what a pig butchering scam is. You got all these people online. I believe it's Asian women for the most part. They put these pictures of these Asian women. They contact you using Telegram or iMessage or even WhatsApp, and they pretend to be your friend. So what they're doing is they're trying to build trust. That is pretty much fattening the pig is what they call it. So they try to build trust. They try to see if you have any money for them, any money that's in cryptocurrencies, which is a big one. Or forex trading, that's another one. They create fake websites where they ask you to wire money to be able to invest it. So they make you believe like your money is growing really, really fast at a high rate, high interest, high rate of return. And sometimes they even pay out a little bit at the very beginning to entice you to invest even more money. But then as soon as they see that you got a good amount invested in it, that's when they pull the plug. Then they start asking you for more money and excuses as to be able to withdraw whatever remainder funds in there. So if you start with 50,000, they'll say, oh, you just made another 50 within a month or so. And then they'll try to make you put more money in there to be able to withdraw it. So they're basically trying to get you to put as much money as possible in there to fund all this criminal activity. We don't know where this money's going. It could be going to places like Africa or maybe India or maybe China. All this money is funding terrorist organizations, I'm pretty sure. So it's very important to be very, very careful. If you get an unknown text message online, if you get an unknown text message on the computer for someone that you do not know, an unknown phone number, trying to see if you will become their friend or making small talk, stay away from that. Stay away from that scam. A lot of people, sometimes they're very lonely, especially here in the US or other first world countries. So when you start getting these text messages from people, they try to build trust. Stay away from that. Block those people, report them. I think the more people are aware of that, they start passing the word around. Eventually, there's going to be a lot of knowledge about that, and the scammers are going to have to look for new ways to be able to siphon money out of US consumers. We worked very hard for that money, and for someone to come in and just take $100,000 from someone that has earned it over the years, some of these people, it took them a lifetime to earn those 100,000. Some people may earn it in one good trade, whether or not they sell a property with equity or they make a real good trade with some stocks. They can make $100,000 really fast, but some people, it takes them the entire lifetime to be able to earn $100,000 or $50,000. For someone to come in and in a week or two siphon it away from them, you never know. These organizations, they may be funding sleeper cells here in the US to be able to cause harm. So I think it's very important for everybody to be aware. There's a lot of good resources out there online. You can actually go online on YouTube. There's a channel by the name of Catfished. I highly recommend that you watch a couple of their videos to get an idea of exactly what I'm talking about. It could happen to anybody, young or old. I've seen some people on those channels that they're in their 20s and they get scammed by individuals to be able to send out all their savings. And it can happen if you look online. There's many different podcasters out there or many different YouTubers that will gladly explain exactly what type of scams and how to avoid to fall in a trap. There's actually more stories that I have regarding this, and I think that in the future I might divulge some more of them. I don't want to give any names, obviously. People, they're very ashamed. I feel like a lot of these stories, they're not well known amongst peers because they're embarrassed. If I had that happen to me, I would be really embarrassed. I wouldn't want to tell anybody. Within your community, a lot of these scams are kept under wraps. You won't actually find out about them in your own circle. You'll find out about them if you go online and you do your research. Be very aware of your surroundings online and don't click on links that are foreign. Report them if that's possible, and be vigilant. And I think I'm going to leave it at that today. Please continue to follow my channel. I'll continue to provide you different content that I think will help you be aware in life, to be able to secure your finances and to be able to make your net worth grow. I'll see you next time.